Paying attention. Yes.
Today I would like to talk to you about animal experimentation in the medical and pharmaceutical fields. You probably all have an opinion about if we have a justification to use animals to do to benefit humans. But most likely your opinions are based more on value rather than fact. And my proposition is that this, in the speech is that there are actually factional reasons why animal experimentation for medical research is unreliable. And to clarify my definition of animal experimentation, I mean the use of animals in the medical research for human treatments. And I will prove my claim by first giving you some examples of why the animals cannot replace humans in the experimentation. And then I will give you some examples of past cases where the experimentation and the results from the animals actually caused really serious problems. And finally, I will give you some alternative research methods that actually are much more reliable. My first point is that animals are not people. As a result, they are poor replacements for humans' experiments. Proponents of animal experimentation, they claim that they go by the fact that humans share 98% of their genes with the closest, animal relation with great apes, but actually that 2% difference is huge. Two former animal researchers, Dr. Ray Greig and his wife, Dr. Jean Greig, a physician and a veterinarian, state in their book, Sacred Cows and Golden Geese, that it is not the number of pairs that are important, but the specific pairs and sequences that make us a human and not an ape. At this point, and this point is further illustrated in the examples the different viruses actually react, how they react in humans compared to in animals. For example, the HIV virus acts completely different in chimpanzees, mice or rabbits and humans. Christopher Ander of the Medical Research Modernization Committee located in Cleveland, Ohio, discusses an experiment where over 150 chimps were injected with the HIV virus and only one developed symptoms resembling those of AIDS. Which leads me to my second point. The results from animal experimentation are misleading. The blind confidence that we place into the results that we get from animal experimentation have caused some serious troubles in the past. Again, Drs. Greig and Greig point out the drug thalidomide, which was developed to alleviate morning sickness, even though it was tested on animals. When taken by pregnant women, it caused crippling birth defects in more than 10,000 newborns in the early 1960s, before it was taken off the market. More recently, Opran, an arthritis drug, killed 61 people and had serious side effects for another 3,500 people, even though the drug was tested on monkeys and other animals without any trouble. Those are two examples that show that test results from animal experimentation are irrelevant. An increasing number of researchers actually say that the results they receive from animal experimentation are unusable. A review in the British Medical Journal of 25 animal experiments concluded that the animal data were either irrelevant or they conflicted with the results of the clinical trials that then were done on humans. The bottom line is that drugs need to be tested more carefully on human beings. Kathy Archibald, the science director of the European Medical for Progress, said, "There is no getting away from the fact that people have to be the ultimate guinea pigs for testing new treatments, in addition to bring more accurate, extensive human clinical trials to protect people better. Which leads me to my third point. Research can be scientifically conducted through methods that are more reliable. Today, the animal experimentation is done mainly for financial and legal reasons rather than the need. In the words of Drs. Greek and Greek, animal experimentation has provided a legal sanctuary for drugs companies since the 1961, when the government mandated that medication be tested first for being safe and effective. Additionally, Kathy Archibald, Science Director for European for Medical Progress, contends that drug companies use animal experimentation to avoid the large expenses of extended clinical trials on humans. Fortunately, advanced technology have made methods testing available. Reliable alternatives exist to animal experimentation. One promising one is in vitro or test tube research. Testing substances in a control setting on lab-grown human genes rather than live organisms. In conclusion, I hope that you agree that animal experimentation is an unreliable method for developing medical cures for humans. First, I gave you expert opinions about the fallacies of thinking that we can replace humans with animals. Then, second, I described you some example of the terrible consequences of taking the results as a given. And finally, I provided you some alternatives that are better solutions to medical research. Thank you.
All right, Gianni, I thought that the proposition was very clearly stated at the beginning of the presentation. The lead-in was pretty effective. You label what your secondary points are going to be, but some of the secondary points really are summaries of the evidence rather than telling us what the inference is that we should draw from those. And so you need to be a little bit more careful about the phrasing there. But organizationally, it was very easy to follow as we're listening to it. You also did a good job in the body of the speech signposting those secondary claims, so I appreciated that, as I'm sure your audience did as well. There's usually a good explanation of your argument as you're developing it. So while you're presenting the evidence, you also explain to us why that evidence matters and how it is that we're reaching a particular conclusion. I like that quite a bit. I did think that you needed a little bit more information on the inadequacy of the human testing that goes on now. There's an argument that seems to suggest that once they passed the laws, then the medical groups used animals as a substitute for humans. But the one quote that you have on that is very generic, and the only example that you have that occurs after the laws were put in place was that recent one, whatever, not the Motrin, but what was it? What was the medication? Not thalidomide, the other one that you had. Yeah, that one. Yeah, so I think you need to tell us a little bit more about that. And for instance, if we can trace it back to inadequate testing on humans because they thought it was all well and good because of the animals, that would be a much stronger argument there.
I had to cut some of my speech because when I was
practicing,
I was going way over.
I always tell people, I said, usually the problem is not how do I fill the 6 minutes, it's how do I get it down to 6 minutes once you start doing the research. And I thought you did a pretty good job with most of the arguments providing the evidence. I thought your citations were excellent. The generalization seemed pretty sound, and I thought you did a very good job of delivering it too. All right, thank you.